Boomers really do have zero idea how bad it is right now. I just had my dad advise me to apply to at most 5 companies for internships because that would psychologically force me to only choose the best ones. He's probably going to tell me to walk into offices and demand jobs soon enough. What's worse is that he knows I make more than him, quant firm RN, but he still wants to advise me. Is this dad's planning? I don't want to be a cunt of a child, but this is beyond out of touch. Just apply to 5 jobs, you'll dad. I've applied to 10 times that number this week. Some people do have jobs. Be one of those. You're so right. How silly of me. If you're jobless, just buy a job face with rolling eyes. Some people have multiple jobs. Apply 20 times then. At 200 this month already. And you didn't find a job? Apply more than that then. No. Unironically, though, entry-level needs to stop spam applying to remote jobs. They'll almost never get it. It's easy to say you applied to hundreds of jobs when 90+% are filler remote jobs that no one is actually hiring for. You're doing it wrong then. Only focus on 5 so that you can craft the cover letters appropriately. Cover letters? What do you want to show them you're only partially invested? Why not choose your top choice and just show up and start working for free? That will show your commitment and gumption. And all of them should be handwritten, including your resume. Go to their office and hand them directly to the boss so they can see your passion. Don't forget to wear a nice suit. Have a firm handshake and look them in the eye. Guaranteed insta-hire. I'm convinced boomer-era white males had life on easy mode, and that is why they are so detached from reality. Not only in the U.S., I live in Mexico, and lots of people in my family got well-paying union jobs by basically showing up with a job application for a job they saw on the paper. Also, my dad. Just walk in with your friend when he applies for the job and you'll probably get an interview. That's how I got my job. I know he's trying his best to help, but advice from parents younger days don't really work well, especially in this day and age. A few years ago, I told my dad that isn't how things work now, and he told me that other people are telling me that so that they can get the job instead. I gave up trying to talk to him about this stuff after that. Nope, 'cause they're in charge now and realize how stupid the people hiring them must have been. I remember at one point I was applying to 50 jobs a day on Indeed, anything I could get. Going on for 4 months. Eventually, I got a job, but I remember my brother and mother yelling at me that I wasn't doing anything and putting stress on them. That was 2 years ago. 2 months ago, my brother started applying for jobs and can't get anything. He just came up to me the other day and went, "Wow, you really were putting in those applications." Like, yes, dude, I really was. This is a fairly recent phenomenon, which is why a lot of people who have been at the same job for 5+ years don't understand. The job application meta changed, especially during COVID when everything was done online. Because it is easy to apply online, everybody sends out hundreds of applications when they want a job. That also means that each job posting gets tens of thousands of applicants. There is no way the recruiter can read all of them. People have basically adapted the Tinder strategy, where the average guy's best strategy is to swipe right on every girl because his hit rate is so low. There is no point in reading anything. At the end of the day, he might have one match and he can decide if he wants to proceed or not. With stuff like Easy Apply on LinkedIn, people are applying to every job. If you've ever seen it from the recruiter's side, it's crazy. An internship will get 1,000 senior-level applicants because there is software engineering in the job title. A senior, our-level position will get a lot of college students looking for internships applying to it. A job that explicitly states that they cannot sponsor visas will still get several thousand international applicants that need sponsorship. Nobody reads the job description. If the job title looks somewhat relevant, they just apply first and worry about it later if they get a response. The annoying thing is, once everybody is doing this, you pretty much have to do it too. There is so much noise injected into the system that applications effectively get lost or buried in the 10K applicants, and you'll never get seen even if you are the perfect applicant. You have to apply to enough places so that you get lucky to be on top of the pile and someone actually sees your resume. The jobs that did get back to me, I used a cover letter for. I stress that every person I talk to, I would love to see the stats on the age of and percentage of recruiters, hiring managers that often use dating apps that allow you to just discard countless people. It wouldn't be surprising if that kind of thinking has bled into hiring. Yeah, it is really hard to understand the sheer volume of shit you need to do these days. I lucked out for a summer internship, but damn was it stressful getting it. Only 10? If you're applying to that many jobs and getting nothing back, it's a problem with you. Plenty of people are sending out 1 to 20 apps and getting a job without issue. Oh, me, I'm personally doing okay. However, as you will quickly find out on places like our recruiting hell, our jobs, etc., the people getting a job without issue after 20 applications max are outliers. LH.
Here's a sneak peek of our recruiting hell using the top posts. https np.reddit.com/r/recruitingel/top/ sort equals top and t equals year of the year. Number 1. I am so sick of these ridiculous screening questions. https www.reddit.com/gallery/1acre8c6 pipe 1628 comments. https np.reddit.com/r/recruitingel/comments/1acre8c6/I_so_sick_these_ridiculous_screening/. Number 2. Canceling 1 minute after scheduled interview, so I cancelled them. https i.red.it/wr2761723va1.jpg pipe 549 comments. https np.r edit.com/r/recruitingel/comments/12t6hat/canceling_1_minute_after_scheduled_interview/. Number 3. Interviewer forgot I was CC'd. https i.red.it/gzs5jpeg7qx2c1.jpg pipe 1978 comments. https np.reddit.com/r/recruitingel/comments/185a33x/interviewer_was_ccd/ I'm bot beep boop downvote to remove contact https www.reddit.com/message/compose/ to equals sneak peek bot info https np.reddit.com/r/sneakpeekbot/ opt out https np ready
t.com/r/sneakpeekbot/comments/08wk1r/blacklist_x/closing parenthesis GitHub https://github.com/sneakpeekbot closing parenthesis. For real, getting an entry-level role is a numbers game, but you shouldn't need more than 20 to 30 apps even in this market. 5 is delusional, but so is thinking that hundreds of apps can outpace either poor presentation skills or an overall lack of competitiveness. IRC, this sub is mostly international students, so they're not just looking for a job, they're also looking for a sponsor. Which makes things a lot harder and inflates application counts a lot, as they're probably applying to jobs without reading the description. Better print off a copy of your resume to take with you to the interviews. This is one of the most annoying social conventions in American business. You have my resume. I sent it to you. Why do you want a paper copy? To prove you are competent enough to print a useless document and bring it to them. The lone qualification for the role, to show that you know how to use a printer. But I didn't put using a printer as a skill on my resume. Went to a federal job interview and they asked for a paper copy of a resume they confirmed receipt of. I was like, no, I didn't bring a paper copy. What's your email? I'll send you a PDF from my phone to you literally right now. Exactly. Why do you need to bring a leather portfolio with 5 copies of your resume printed on hardstock paper? If you're requiring that, I automatically question your priorities. Did you get the job? The conversation isn't about what makes people special. It's about doing away with inane business conventions that don't make sense. To answer your question, I don't think anything makes me special. However, the company I applied to saw something in resume that they felt was worth a recruiter. Several majors, and a VP's time. I'd assume that's special from their perspective. I've been through the process from the employer side. I have like 5 people to evaluate for a position for each POS. I peruse each resume looking for core competencies before I meet the person because that's what a good, prepared person does if they take a task seriously. If it's important enough for me to meet with a candidate, given all the other stuff I have to deal with, I'm taking 4 minutes to read their qualifications and evaluate them against the role. So, to be a decent interviewer and respect everyone's time, including the candidate, I need to already have their resume in hand. It doesn't make sense for me to ask them to print their resume because I've done my job by evaluating the resume, looking at their socials, etc., etc., or to fill it out again for each job on the website. So annoying to fill it out when it's in my resume. Either don't require a resume, or just accept the resume and not have me fill out every past job experience. My Workday job's piece of shit website with awful autofill. Yes, and I stopped doing that. Just apply to as many fresh listings as possible. The time you spend on an app in an inefficient, for you, portal is time you could be applying to a different job. It's not really annoying at all. The interviewer could be coming out of a meeting or from somewhere else and didn't have time to print a copy or they forgot to bring it. If you can't bother to print copies in case of an emergency, then you're silly because it's better for the interviewer to have a copy of your resume in front of them instead of them having to shoot from the hip. It just makes you look lazy and incompetent. Also, them having your resume in front of their face gives them something intangible to remember you by. That's stupid. I don't have a printer at home, but I've never seen an office without a printer. You know, it looks lazy and incompetent. Not printing a copy of a candidate's resume at some point in the week or so between their emailing it to you and the interview. I've got things to do. I'm taking time out of my day to come in, probably do a coding test, speak with 4 to 5 people, all for a job I have no guarantee of getting. The least they can do is print the resume. It's an antiquated social convention. And what makes you special? No, really. Not an insult, or at least not meant to be one. What makes you special to this interviewer? Do they know you? Do you know them? Do you have a legendary background that people should already know? If you think you are special because you have a degree, you are also out of touch. But you have a point, too. If they show up unprepared, it speaks volumes about their organization and priorities. It doesn't matter as they're the one with the job and you're the one bending over backwards to join their company. You have no advantage over them. If you want to do all that legwork and then not print some copies of your resume, then you're the fool, not them. It's fine if you can't be bothered, but you're not a unique or special candidate in any way, and they probably have another 100 plus people that are willing to take 10 minutes to print the resume before coming in. It is quite funny given that a hiring environment that people like you think you're in any position to damage your candidacy by not doing something as simple as printing some resumes the night before. You can very easily tell who has and hasn't worked in a corporate environment by these types of posts. Oh, here we go with the little personal slides. I know the corporate environment. I've worked for a few different companies you've heard of. I live and breathe the corporate environment. I've never done anything else in my working life. My entire life has been a Dilbert cartoon. I've also been the one on the hiring side of the situation. So, I know that, as a hiring manager, there is no emergency in my day so great that I can't click a resume attached to an email and print it. No one is that incompetent. Also, by your own logic, everyone should just turn any kind of trick imaginable to get a job because there's 100 other people out there, right? Why stop at printing the resume? I mean, why not offer to shine the manager's shoes or give them a massage? There's hundreds of other people out there and they're the ones with the job, right? The point is that it's fine to not be completely obsequious and good candidates have leverage too. Oh, here we go with the little personal insights. Funny because I've also been on the hiring side of the situation as a hiring manager, and there are 100% situations where there are emergencies that greater meeting runs over and you don't have time to go back to your desk. Shit happens. Guess our anecdotal evidence is different, so you do you, though. Might explain why you've never been high enough up the food chain where you were needed for a fire drill. Also, good job trying to move the GOAL posts beyond printing a resume. Couldn't care less about shining shoes or giving massages. Either way, that's an absolutely low IQ asinine take. But again, just further proves why you've never been high enough up the food chain to where you were needed on anything timely and important. Are you really making these comments? You are such a big shot that you just can't find time to print and read a resume. We'll say 180 to 240 seconds, but you've got time to get into a rather long comment chain on Reddit? For real, lol. I'm sorry, but you beclown yourself more and more with each comment. Also, I like how you try to cover your pettiness with a "you do you," while at the same time trying to get a little, I guess you've never been important enough to deal with an emergency, dig in lol. Following your own logic to its ultimate conclusion, i.e. you should be willing to debase yourself to whatever level is lower than the next lowest guy and jump through any hoop, no matter how stupid, is not moving the goalposts. I've never been in the C-suite, but I've been important enough to decide what is and isn't a fire drill, and guess what? If you're good at what you do and have a very basic ability to prioritize and manage your time effectively, there is no way you can't find 240 seconds. ONDS to print a resume and read through it before you meet a candidate for an hour chat, especially if you know you'll be doing so more than 24 hours in advance. I mean, what a bizarre argument to make. You really can't find 180 to 240 seconds in an 8-hour period to print a resume and peruse it? Really, lol? Like you're already committing to an hour interview, lol? What does printing a resume have to do with being on Reddit today? Am I interviewing people today? I'm in a sub for CS majors. That would most likely indicate a career change if I'm talking about past situations. No? But you keep on with the brain dead takes, really proving why you weren't involved in anything worthwhile. I also just took a glance at your posting history. You were a low-level accountant. A nobody. In an industry where most of the corporate workers will never encounter anything remotely resembling a fire drill outside of the occasional monthly or year-end close. Funny thing is that we often put accountants on fire drills. In my previous life, where I worked for a meat grinder of a multi-billion-dollar company that existed on fire drills, because we had to flash financial data to leadership before quarter and month-end closes, and C-level guys don't understand that actualized, finalized data doesn't come in until X days after quarter close, and they in Wall Street don't care. Anyway, but these accountants didn't decide whether to be involved in that or not. They were simply told. And if they pushed back, their boss would get a call from someone way up the food chain telling them their team wasn't going home that night until there was a number in said leader's email for their 7:30 a.m. call with so-and-so Wall Street analyst. In fact, the accounting teams were some of the slowest working teams I've ever encountered. They could never wrap their head around the idea of a fire drill because their teams were so slow-paced and irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. Dude, you just had a comment with this huge screed implying you were important and had to deal with so many fire drills that printing a resume was burdensome, lol. Bro, how do you have time for Reddit? You've got all this fire drills because you're hella important. Go deal with those. You don't have time for this. You're not wrong. Engaging with low-level accountants who have never had a lick of responsibility is, in fact, a waste of time. That's great that you took the time to research my post history, but I haven't been an accountant for a decade. Again, it's bizarre that you have the time to respond to Reddit, research someone's Reddit history, but you can't seem to find the time to print and digest a document as simple as a resume. Your comments throughout this thread show that you're posing as someone who knows what they're talking about. Want to know how I have time to post on Reddit, get work done, and review resumes? I tease because I'm good in my niche and build things that don't cause fire drills. That's why management loves me. How the fuck is printing out a resume debasing yourself? Really? IDK. Why is the hiring manager too good to do that? I don't think anybody is too good to do anything. It may be a wise decision to bring your resume to an interview, but nobody is forcing you. I just think saying that it's debasing oneself to do that is a little extreme. Either way, not a huge deal. You're kind of missing the point as far as the logical leap, and it's not an obscure point. It follows the logic cleanly. My interlocutor stated that you should be willing to print your resume because a ton of people applying for the same job are willing to do that. It follows that if anyone in the set of PPL applying for the job will do the same thing, and that your ability to get the job is predicated on being willing to do what others are willing to do, you debase yourself to any level the other candidates are willing to sink to if you want the job. Did you take discrete math? Come on. You're either not comprehending a very clear argument or choosing to deliberately obfuscate. Not how it works for software developers. If the people interviewing you are not competent, you keep looking. Unless you're just as incompetent as they are. Yes, in this hiring environment, entry-level employees can afford to keep looking instead of printing a resume after doing O's, phone interviews and the like. Good use of time and resources for people who are struggling to find jobs. Dumb dick. CS is still very employable despite contracting after the COVID boom. I'm sorry you are struggling, but it's a skill issue, not a state of the economy one. I'm not struggling at all, but you're naive if you don't see thread after thread on this board of people struggling to find jobs. Denying that is being delusional. Advocating that people not print resumes because you deem it busy work is stupid, and I'd argue malicious. So the interviewer might not have time to get the resume, but the applicant should make time to provide the resume multiple times? It's the interviewer who would be lazy and incompetent in your scenario, not the applicant. I actually still do this. I print like 10, then take them to interviews and give them out. They probably trash it or whatever, but at least it gives me something to read and look at. Sometimes I forget which one I gave out, so let's all be on the same page. I am about to be downvoted for some reason, but this is a good thing to do. Yes, they actually good advice, because paper is better to be remembered than everything digital. Especially if it stands out and has a photo. I do remember the only paper resume I've ever seen. It was because a marginally homeless person got into our shared office space and inquired about secretary, mail clerk type positions. I felt bad, but we were a small 10-person branch of a big company and had nothing like that sort of work. I think my boss gave this woman $10 in a referral to a homeless shelter. Okay, at my last job we printed all CDs. Stands out if you're white. As in, you will be remembered. As in, they can filter by race without guessing names. Maybe not a problem here in Germany, really. A lot of places specifically want to hire more diverse candidates, though. Yeah, anytime I talk to my parents, they think our generation is lazy. A lot of older PPL also have loyalty to their employers because it was easier to survive on their salaries back in the day. Sadly, they've been spared the unfortunate reality that this loyalty doesn't exist the other way around. I've got a layoff callus at this point, and it's clear we're just a record in a DB. Don't mean to sound jaded. It's neither good nor bad. It's simply the reality that we have to navigate. I see boomers disappointed that we have no loyalty to LMAO. Even being truth, though, laziness. By the way, curious term. Sometimes it could be depression, ADHD, even other mental health issues. This doesn't change the fact that this market is really fucked up. It's like it doesn't have much to do with when we aren't the ones who decide to hire. Cut of a child is crazy, but in all seriousness, I think most parents want what is best for their children, but they don't realize how much more competitive everything is now compared to the 90s. Was listening to Scott Galloway the other day, and he said UCLA's acceptance rate when he applied was 76% skull, and he still had to apply twice to get in. Georgia Tech back in the 90s was a safety school with over a 70% acceptance rate LMAO. My parents said for Harvard back when they went to school, all you had to do was apply and you had a solid chance getting in. Same thing for med school. https://www.sparkadmissions.com/blog/ivy-league-acceptance-rates/closing square bracket opening parenthesis https://www.sparkadmissions.com/blog/ivy-league-acceptance-rates/closing parenthesis. Even in the 90s, it was easy as shit to get in. In 1940, Harvard had an 85% acceptance rate LMAO. The world is so competitive now, it's insane. Harvard had an 85% acceptance rate in 1940? I need a source for that. That's crazy, and I can't just buy that. College was an entirely different thing back in the day and had an entirely different use. Might as well be comparing apples to oranges when looking at acceptance rates from the 40s till now. That's also very true. Google it. Life in the US is so much more competitive now in every way, it's absolutely insane. I tried to and couldn't find anything on it other than tweets.
https news.ycombinator.com/item id equals 27,479,073 hash tilde text equals Ivy %20 league %20 cartel %E2 %80 9 sin %201,940 2C %20 the %20 acceptance %20 rate %20 at %20 Harvard %20 was %208 5% 20% %2 FJFKs %2 DV. They reference this link for the stat, I believe, but I couldn't view the link because it's behind a paywall. https www.theatlantic.com/education/archive/2013/11/jfks-very-revealing-harvard-application-essay/2816999 https www.theatlantic.com/education/archives/2013/11/jfks-very-revealing-harvard-application-essay/
281,699? Before the GI Bill, most universities couldn't get enough students to apply even at the Ivy Leagues. It was a problem. Do you have any link to support this? This looks very, very high. GT, back in the 90s, was super easy to get into. Basically, if you had either grades or SATs, you were getting in. Now, once you got in, you got the look to your left, look to your right. One of those people will not graduate speech. Source. Applied over Telnet to Oscar to tech and got accepted. https://irp.gatech.edu/files/factbook_1990.pdf https://irp.gatech.edu/files/factbook_1990.pdf closing parenthesis. Well, I was a bit off and the acceptance rate was 69%, but Georgia Tech was never really as difficult to get into as it is today. LMAO valedictorians have a hard time getting into GATEC for undergrad now. My parents do understand, so they are telling me to reskill to healthcare, which is on a global level recession-proof. Adapt or succumb to the whims of the fickle job market is basically what they keep warning me about. The rat race feels so pointless, though, especially when the rules constantly change. I originally switched from ENG to CS because of the decline in oil and gas, and now that I switched to CS, it's declining again. Like, fuck, man, I can't believe I thought I could have ever bought a house. It's crazy to me that my dad graduated from an obscure college in '82 and got offers from Intel, HP, and Control Data. Those were big names back then, and he was sending paper resumes typed out after reading ads in the newspaper. My mom got a union job in the telephone company with a job application after seeing an ad on the newspaper. There was an exam with 10 questions. It's not just about how competitive it is, it's about how long it takes. Applying for a single job isn't necessarily a quick task. Trying to find a new job is practically a full-time unpaid job on its own. If this is the path we want to go down as a society, I think we need to beef up unemployment benefits. The economics of job applications is leading to a loss of productivity. Kids these days are so lazy. Just walk into the office, find the head honcho, and give him a firm handshake. Boom. Internship. It's not that hard. Facts. My only coding experience is solving 2 sum and no in time. But I'm L7 at Google because I looked the CEO in the eye when I introduced myself. Did you suck him off too? You could easily become the top 1% by getting sloppy. Sundar did work at McKinsey. Pretty certain this is actual procedure there. You're joking, but an honorary PhD from my school that was a first 50 Googler or so and major contributor to their success joked with me about studying LinkedIn list traversals or something, and I had to explain to him that I don't think he understands how hard interviews are now for even worse jobs. LinkedIn list traversal got me tears of joy. On a side note, some companies make you complete an IQ test, literally lol. It is so hilarious to me at this point. That's what it takes these days. It always takes and never gives. They must not be hiring the sort of people who were major contributors to their own success. Then, honestly, I'd be impressed if I was presented with a genuine solution to 2 sum. When a boomer tells you something like that, I tell them the success story of prisoners refusing to leave the prison until they are offered a job in the prison. The moment I shared the story, they immediately knew how stupid their idea was. I mean, most kids probably just blasting 1,000 apps via Indeed. Might actually work out better if they did that. The head honcho would tell them to apply online and then call security. These kids don't understand hustle. Back in my day, paper route, mowing the lawn, washing cars. With that money, you can afford a car and get a real job. I grew up in a rural area and was unironically told those exact things by my parents. All of these things are only economically viable in town or urban areas. Beyond that, your transport costs and lack of density of customers ruin the economic viability. Nowadays, I guess the equivalent of the paper route is DoorDash, but that may not exist everywhere. There's high unemployment in WVKY, but even higher for youth unemployment. Anyone who escapes poverty and goes into CS moves away. For a while, it seemed like we could have a new economy by allowing people to work remotely from poor rural areas, but it's been ripped away within the last 2 years. I can assure you these things aren't viable in an urban area either, lol. I guess my point is, you can make some extra money with DoorDash in urban areas. It won't be a living wage, but it can help bridge the gap with another part-time job. In rural areas, you have to be extremely enterprising with service businesses and have some startup capital, willing to be exploited in construction, mining, or you drink and use meth, which is the path a lot of people take. These days, for retail, food service jobs, unfortunately, you can't just walk in and walk out with a job anymore. They make you go through like multiple interviews, potential assessments, and all this other extra crap with no guarantee they'll hire you. It's BS. When I was 15, I started looking for jobs, but they all required you to be 16 or 18. So I looked again when I was 16, but no place wanted to hire me, probably partially because I was 16 and had zero work experience. I was a late bloomer for getting a job. Got my first one at 17. But I was excited to work that summer to make money and be productive. Worked throughout most of college and glad I did. Now I feel confident that I will find a job soon enough after graduating college. My dad got his job by just walking into a farm and started working. 2 weeks later, when it was time to hand out paychecks, they assumed they didn't have his due to some sort of clerical error and did all of that basically on the spot. When I was applying for jobs, he told me to just show up at the office and start working. Hey boss, I think there's an HR error with my paycheck. Who the fuck are you and how did you get access to our system? They'd realize you're working for free and just keep you in the basement until you leave on your own. I believe you have my stapler. The reverse Costanza. He was not Penske material. I'm laughing so hard seeing this shit. Tears of joy, tears of joy, tears of joy. Sounds like this guy named Kramer pretends to have a job. https://www.youtube.com/watch?v equals UTB8po0u closing square bracket opening parenthesis https://www.youtube.com/watch?v equals UTB8po0u closing parenthesis. Off topic, but you should see marriage conversations. In this economy, what do they say? What does marriage have to do with the economy? Everything, always. Most people will not want to marry and have kids until financially stable. People in our last generation got married early 20s. Do you see anyone our age getting married these days? I feel like the people who do get married are early to mid-30s. I see a lot of pregnant teenagers marrying someone who's failed high school more than once, but that might just be an area thing. From where I'm from, kids who have generational wealth only tend to marry early, like in their early 20s. My dad is actually someone who will walk into an office and ask y'all hiring. He says it still works to this day. He recently did this after being laid off a month ago, lol. It genuinely works. In certain industries, I think this is a thing in factories, trades, restaurants. Applying in person is a thing. I've never seen it in an office. At Meta, you'll never make it past the front gate. Any corporate office, you wouldn't be able to get past security. They would either tell you to leave or tell you to check out their careers page, and if they were super nice, write down the URL on a sticky and send you out with a smile. If you were looking to become IT support for a non-tech company, they will probably hire you on the spot. If you are trying to apply to a company whose website constantly gets redone every 2 years with whatever JS and CSS frameworks are fresh, you probably won't get a chance. Take your resume and make a copy of it and put your dad's info on it. Tell him to apply to 5 jobs with it, and watch as nothing materializes. Let him experience firsthand what it's like. Should have done nursing, son. It was this bad in the 80s and 90s. The dot-com collapse in 2008 was no fun either. They know. What they don't know is how hiring practices have changed since. It's always been this bad. Literally had my boomer mom screaming at me I must be acting weird or doing something wrong in interviews because I hadn't lined up a job yet when I graduated college in 2007. Despite putting in considerable effort, and that having a degree from UC Berkeley meant I should be getting hired on the spot. She kinda got the idea after the crash of 2008 that it wasn't the 70s anymore. But she and my dad had the same job since they finished law, graduate school, with maybe one switch because one place went tits up. She still bitched at me through 2016 when I was basically job hopping every other year due to the churn and burn culture that was popular during the last decade. ETA. The conversation at Thanksgiving in 2014 where she said, "You can't keep switching jobs. Think about how that looks," was fun. Like, Mom, I got laid off because the guy thought he could get services part-time as good from his cousins for half of what he was paying me at one place. Spoy. Lure alert, he didn't. And another place would claim growth, hire a new cohort, and lay off anyone with seniority so they didn't have to give raises. That wasn't my fault. She gets it now, though, because my sibling went through the same shit. 2008-2009 was really bad. You couldn't get hired anywhere. I applied for over 120 roles to fast food and dollar store type jobs. Nobody was hiring. I ended up making my own fake tech startup, which got me a real part-time job as a CS intern 2 years later. It kind of beat into me that being honest is not a good quality to have when job seeking. Now I have 12 years of experience and my callback rate is probably a little higher than the 2008 fast food adventure, but still pretty bad. That's why I say we're in a tech recession since at least November 2022. Yeah, it was really terrible. I was finally able to get a decent middle-class job. The ones my parents told me to get a degree, any degree for and it evaporated the week after the crash of 2008. Only to see the same job reposted a week later at half what I was getting paid and requiring an economics, business, or other finance degree. I got it with a social sciences degree, and a clever high school graduate would have had no problem learning how to do it. But that was the new paradigm. The pay and have ridiculous degree requirements for a lot of jobs while using nobody wants to work anymore, or should have learned to code, majored in something useful, talking points. Just note, I have a CS bachelor's and master's now, but that was after floating from job to job for several years following the crash. The macroeconomics of the year of your graduation affects your lifetime earnings significantly. And you're the poster child for that, it seems. Crap, I'm at Berkeley RN and the future does not look bright. Do not listen to the other person. Berkeley is one of the best universities in the world. You're graduating in 3 or 4 years. You'll be fine. Trust your gut on that one. I did STEM and got fucked in 32 with nothing. I graduate this quarter, couldn't get an internship. Whenever I talk to my mom about it, she instinctively opens USA Jobs and starts listing off entry-level positions. TSA is hiring near you. Like, so is McDonald's. Mom, that's not the issue here. Skilled, technical government positions are legitimately good. If you have the qualifications. Sure, but TSA ain't that. Really? I thought the pay was decent once you spend some time there. My sister worked there. At the time, pay starts a little over minimum wage. I don't remember how much more, but it wasn't much. I also applied twice roughly 10 years ago, and I remember it paid better than Subway, but not enough for me to get excited. But that was about 10 years ago. I'm in my 30s with a kid, a mortgage, and a fresh degree. It just isn't that appealing of an option compared to getting a job in my field. I'm not saying you should join the TSA, or that the starting pay is good. I'm pretty sure there's a pay scale you go up over the first 10 years or so that ends up being decent pay. Not great or anything, but decent. And if they don't cancel due to budgetary. And if you have enough points to pass the military guy, or his spouse. And if you pass the stage 1 and 2-star interview, and the background check. Did marijuana once 3 years ago? You might be disqualified. Do you want a job or not? You can get paid while getting 1,000 auto-generated rejections for your chosen field. Or you can just get rejections. Bro, don't come at me like that. That isn't even close to the issue at hand. Serious. TSA is an open door that can get you into a closed system of thousands of diverse government jobs. Some of those jobs are easy, pay well, and all have solid benefits. But the dude doesn't want to start at the bottom. They are too good and it's beneath them. I'm sure TSA is a shit job, but it's easy to stand out there. I know a few 20-somethings hired from there making over 100K now. True, but I would say it's a better opportunity for someone young that has yet to gain much of any experience or technical skills and doesn't mind starting on the ground floor and working up from there. I don't really fit in that demographic, so for me it isn't much different from any other minimum wage job. I can get a job. That isn't the issue. Do research in your field. Lower barrier of entry. COVID screwed me and the 2 internships I lined up were canceled. I graduated with no experience in a field where everyone gets internships and it's competitive. I reached out to every single relevant lab on my campus over email. One lab said they had nothing for me and I literally asked to make coffees for them. Boomerish, I know. They brought me on to do a quick project and I got resume points. I managed to get a paid position at another lab after doing some work for free. Basically an internship. I worked at the lab for a year before getting a big tech job and the rest is history. What do you mean? You just need to give a firm handshake and you're in. IDK, the market's pretty bad right now, but you should still be prioritizing personal connections over mass applying. How so if you're a student? Job fairs seem like a meme to me. They're not. I'm a student right now, and my non-job fair connections are 1/20th for interviews while my job fair connections are 3/4, with the 4th promising to get back to me. In those 3 interviews, I found out that the jobs I was applying for had 500 plus applicants. But I was shortlisted because I had actually met the guy and made a good impression. These places write down the names of people they like. It's not a joke. How the FCK, you know people. It's not like someone wants to speak with you and the other way around is true too. Bruh, do you think these people want to sift through 600 resumes? They go to those events to find people who are real and not weird. Just go and show interest in their company and don't be weird. That is degrading and pathetic. I cannot lie up to that point. I am not interested on their company. I am interested in changing my potential services for payment. Not interested if your company is going to grow, if you're going to get rich. I just hope a fair and friendly work relationship. Companies mean nothing to me. They don't represent any important thing in my life. And I can't pretend otherwise because that is hypocrisy. Exactly. That's why they use this method, so that people like you are weeded out, haha. Working as intended. Why would anybody ever want to hire you? Edit to add. You shouldn't lie. You should change your interests so that you're interested in contributing. The duality of Reddit https://preview.reddit.it/f95bn352hvc1.png width = 142 and format = png and auto = webp and s = d28a220 bed 4f4d9 bc5e8 cb2312 f211295 df49199. CS majors versus sysadmin. Maybe there is a hint there. The glamorous path versus the neglected path. You make more than your dad at a quant firm and he's advising you to apply to 5 internships. Something doesn't add up. Most college kids nowadays have Gen X parents, not boomer parents, right? Gen X are just as bad as boomers when it comes to understanding difficulty of getting a job, because they were graduating school in the mid-80s to early to mid-90s. Millennials will be the first generation which actually understands the difficulty of their children when it comes time to get an entry-level job. Millennials are going to be giving outdated advice to their kids eventually too, and millennial will have just as much of a derisive context as boomer. Every young generation thinks they're better than the last one, and the previous one always thinks they know better than their kids. The hard part for the parents is that for most of their lives they have known better than their kids, and don't always realize that once their kids hit a certain age, it isn't that way anymore. Exactly. But also, when us millennials start to give advice to our children, maybe the situation would have improved. I didn't say they would give good advice. I said they'd be more understanding if there was difficulty in getting a job. Some might be, I suppose, especially if you're in tech and they're not. But as someone who's been in tech since the mid to late 90s, just in time for the dot-com crash, I feel like anyone still giving this kind of advice has to have been living under a rock since the turn of the century. Seriously. A big rock. Okay, boomer. This is so 2017. My dad said there is no recession, it's just fear-mongering by tech companies, skull. Theirs isn't a recession, but growth in tech has slowed a lot more than they anticipated 3 to 4 years ago with interest rate increases. To be fair, US GDP and wages are doing incredibly well. I am from India, sir, and it's terrible here. But Modi is making it be the greatest country on earth. He's doing good, but the macroeconomic situations are not helping. From the bunch of clowns we have in the parliament, he's the only one who gets the job done which he promises. Do I like him? Yes. Am I his supporter? No. What exactly is recession? What exactly is economy? What exactly is money? Why exactly are we alive? What are we trying to achieve? Not completely related, but we are OFC always controlled by a bunch of rich and powerful people. So instead of bitching about someone, even if it's your dad, just enjoy the passing of time. And try to love him as much as possible. Lol, dude, I enjoyed this comment. None of this shit we put all this energy into, the economy, etc., achieves anything other than advertising to other people on some stupid platform. Honestly, I think your dad isn't wrong. I've said multiple times that this particular market reminds me a lot of the dot-com crash and post-9/11 recession. Were a number of companies struggling and having layoffs as a result? Sure. The rest used that as an excuse to lay off hordes of workers and offshore those jobs to save a bundle on labor. As far as I can tell, that's exactly what this is too. The unemployment rate is historically low, the economy is booming, jobs are being added at higher than predicted rates. So why the fuck are all these companies firing workers? To prop up their stock price. I saw a ton of it in 2000 to 2002. They have to report growth on their balance sheet, and this is how they're doing it. It'll probably bite them in the ass eventually, just like offshoring did. But in the meantime, it sucks for workers who have to white-knuckle it in the meantime. My dad said I should walk in and hand in resumes, and that would be smart if I had a car cause the companies are not close. You can apply to 1,000 jobs and get no response right now. They don't understand. Record your screen while applying and send to them. Just nod and say you'll do it. Keep him happy. Just because you make more than him, what makes him not able to advise you? I'd be looking at why you're getting those thoughts, element. Your old man obviously loves you and wants the best for you. Imagine when you have a kid and all you want is the best for them, and yet they complain on Reddit about it. Just my opinion. Man shrugging. The correct move here is to say, okay, Dad, I love you. Do you want to go out for lunch? Let's not start using the term dadsplaining. There's nothing wrong with him trying to help you or wanting the best for you. Needless to say, I know you already understand that. It's not just boomers either. That's the worst part. You'll get a ton of people that got hired in 2021-2022 window, literally during the peak of the boom. And they'll act like gods who are above all just because they got good timing in the market. And they'll refuse to accept that, and that times are different now. Just nod, agree, and then do your own thing. This only works if you have a hookup. These days I've been saying PPL applying 500 plus with no Luke. As people get older, they have more money. They then become disconnected with what wages feel like for someone on the lower end of the earnings curve, and their memories are locked onto when they struggled and what things cost at that time. Older people also don't pay much attention to what things cost now for essentials compared to when they made less money. It's a psychological phenomenon that's not well covered, but it creates this rift between their perception and what is reality because they entirely lost context. Pedantic, but if you're in college and your dad is Gen X, not Boomer, take the spirit of his advice but not the letter. Yes, apply to all of them. But find the best ones you like, connect on LinkedIn to people who work there, talk to them about your field. Network and become a known entity. If one suggests applying at their company, have them connect you to their hiring manager. Build your network and find a job that way. Be able to write a CV that you can name drop your internal connections in. Mr. Bobbert suggested I pursue my career with the company he loved. Yes, our conversations on the field taught me practical knowledge of development that I would not have had the opportunity to learn from a classroom. He is very knowledgeable, and I would be remiss if I ignored his advice. Who the FCK is Mr. Bobbert? In this example, a person who works at the company that the hiring manager could reach out to for their opinion. Basically, an insider that makes it easier to get a foot in the door. It's the main way networking works. It's how the world works. People are way more likely to hire someone with a connection, any connection, asterisk with them, over some outsider with no connection. And Bobbert is a joke based on the common generic name Bob. Oh, you mean your aunt, right? Networking works with Nepo babies the best. Well, yes, you could call nepotism a form of networking. It makes the start of the process far easier as you connect with other rich kids in youth and have free time in college because you don't need to work. So, yeah, you aren't wrong, open mouth smile. LMAO, so just because you make more than him, he can't advise you.